The quarterback list is back. It's going down. Zach, Real Lil, Zay, let's get it. Let's play. Our top 32 quarterbacks for the upcoming 2022 season. We obviously got through about, I believe, 12 already out the ballpark. And it's time to go to number 20 through 16. Our top 32 quarterbacks. All right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, once again, my criteria for my list is ITH. Starter, projected starter, and projected finish, in MVP ratings. But Zach, I believe you went the last time first. I'm gonna kick it off here, and I'm gonna send it right back to you. All right, to recap my list though, real quickly here: 32 was Sam Darnold, 31 was Drew Lock, 30 was Marcus Mariota, 29 was Tua Tagovailoa, 28 was Jared Goff, 27 was Davis Mills, 26 was Carson Wentz, 25 was Jalen Hurts, 24 was Mitch Trubisky. 23 was Daniel Jones. 22 was Justin Fields. 21 was Zach Wilson. And now at number 20, I'm going Trevor Lawrence. Last year, I had him ranked at number 20. So he basically stayed where he was, which is very interesting. All right, last year was not a good start. Who we kidding? For the generational prospect known as Trevor Lawrence. When you think about everything, Urban Meyer, the dysfunction that came along with Urban Meyer to already dysfunctional franchise in Jacksonville, it wasn't going to mesh well. And I'll give anybody $5 if they can tell me what offense was ran by Urban Meyer in Jacksonville. Like, what was the offense ran? I don't know it. I don't even think he knew it. So clearly, my guy Trevor Lawrence didn't have an opportunity to progress as a quarterback. And now he will have that opportunity with Doug Peterson at the helm, at the coaching spot, being able to maximize his quarterback's potential, being the quarterback guru, played in the Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl winning head coach. I think Trevor Lawrence now have a better opportunity with the additions of Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. And clearly they spent big in Jacksonville. Let's continue to see Trevor Lawrence progress. If he doesn't progress this year, I will be absolutely worried about the once generational prospect. I don't think he probably will be that guy that we wanted him to be, but if we can see middle of the pack quarterback, will be great. At number 19, I'm going to move on here and I'm going to speed things up a little bit. I'm going with Jameis Winston at number 19. Last year I had him ranked number 14. I think Jameis Winston is a top 15 quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I do think he's a top 15 when healthy. The problem is he's not healthy. He's coming off that ACL injury. And when you think about it, I think a lot of people, when they looked at Jameis Winston, they saw the 30 interceptions and they stuck with that. But they ignored the 5,000 yards. And I think 5,000 yards, you throw 5,000 yards in this league, you're talented, you're gifted. He's talented, he's gifted, he has a strong arm, can make all the throws. But I think last year, it's funny because people criticize him for throwing 30 interceptions, didn't recognize the 5,000. But they criticize him for not throwing 5,000 last year, saying he didn't look explosive, but didn't big him up for the 4 interceptions that he only threw, or the 3 interceptions. So that was a transfer of events. But with that being said, ACL injury is going to take him some time to get back to form. The Saints, not a bad wide receiver core with Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave, who I like, and obviously Albert Kamara is going to be suspended, but he's going to have to get back into the flow. That's why I got him this low at 19. Number 18, I'm going Ryan Tannehill. Last year I had him number 11. He dropped 7 spots. Listen, I'll be capping if I didn't say that the 3 interceptions that he threw in a wild card played a factor in me dropping him. It did. And I didn't want it to because it's a regular season more so award or ranking, should I say. But I just looked at that and said, you know what? This is a guy that cannot lead your team to a Super Bowl. He's not a guy that can elevate your guys. He's a guy that can have moments, flashes, but he's not a guy that you want when it's all said and done. When it's time to go to the land of milk and honey, he's not the guy that can take you there. I think this year, when you look around the league, Ryan Tannehill has some work to do. He drafted Malik Willis. Is that going to play in his psyche? Is that going to turn him and make him into a better quarterback where he's like, listen, I'm not trying to lose my job to this rookie? Or is it going to play negative wise in his brain to the point where he's not playing insane? But I will also say this before I move on here. The grit, he has it. I always loved and appreciated Ryan Tannehill's grit. He will stand in the pocket with pressure in his face, get hit, and make the throw. He's talented, but he's just not that guy that transcendent guy that can elevate your franchise. That's why I have him at number 18. And also, too, Robert Woods, ACL injury. Traylon Burks, a guy who I like, but the conditioning has been poor. He has not literally played mini camp or anything because of his conditioning. So clearly he's going to have to learn a lot from now till September. So that's something to be mindful of. At number 17, I'm going to go Trey Lance. Last year I had him not ranked on my list. Look, I think Trey Lance is set up for the most success right now. Being in that Kyle Shanahan system that doesn't require a quarterback to be Tom Brady. It's going to be a lot of easy throws. Barring that Deebo Samuel is still going to be with the team, I feel good about Trey Lance's, opportunities this year to burst onto the scene. We're going to have a Patrick Mahomes somehow. Right? We're going to have a quarterback that's just going to take everybody by storm. Lamar Jackson his first year. We're going to have that guy. Who is it? I'm predicting it's going to be Trey Lance. Okay, strong arm, explosive, can run. He brings another element to a Kyle Shanahan-led system, and I think they're going to see the fruits of that this year, whereas Jimmy Garoppolo will limit you because he can't throw the ball deep, and things of that nature. So I got Trey Lance at number 17. At number 16, to close out my list, I'm going Mac Jones. Last year, I had him ranked nowhere because I thought Cam Newton was going to win the job. He actually won the job, Mac Jones did. And I think this is a quarterback that was protected the most, right? I think a lot of the reasons why Mac Jones had the best year out of all the rookies last year was because he was protected from making mistakes. Other guys, it was like, yo, go out there, play. And of course, with that, there's going to be mistakes. But Mac Jones, it was like, nah, we're going to run the ball, play defense. Don't make no bad plays because we're not going to allow you to make bad plays. I think this year, a lot of questions with the Patriots coaching staff. Is that going to play a factor? I think a little bit come playoff time, but I still think Mac Jones is a good enough quarterback to sit there in the pocket, make all the throws. This guy can throw the rock. He can make all the throws. Deep accuracy is like, he got great accuracy. I could watch him play. And honestly, they got their guy. They got their next dude, after Tom Brady. That's Mac Jones. I believe this guy's everything that you want your quarterback to be in today's NFL outside of the mobility. Okay? Look, I like Mac Jones. I got him at number 16 despite everything going on in New England. So to recap my list, at number 20, I got Trevor Lawrence. At number 19, I got Jameis Winston. At number 18, I got Ryan Tannehill. At number 17, I got Trey Lance. And at number 16, I got Mac Jones.
Hey, welcome back. In the Huddle, Can You Dig Sports Radio. My name is Zach Crow, along with my guys, The Real Leel and Isaiah Bermuse. And we are here discussing Lil and I's top 32 quarterbacks in the NFL. One of these lists that we love making. We do it every season. And Lil just mentioned his quarterbacks, number 20 through 16. I will do the same right now. And to recap my list from a few episodes ago, I did have Drew Lock at number 32, Mitch Trubisky at number 31, Daniel Jones at 30, Sam Darnold at 29, Marcus Mariota at 28, Justin Fields at 27, Jared Goff at 26, Davis Mills at 25, Trevor Lawrence at 24, Tua Tagovailoa at 23, Jameis Winston at 22, Zach Wilson at 21. So without further ado, it is time to reveal 20 through 16. And I do have some names Will just mentioned in his range. I have a couple new names as well. So let's do it. Number 20 was a guy that Will mentioned, and I feel very similar to the way he does about this guy, and that's Ryan Tannehill. And I'll say this. If I was Mike Vrabel, if I was John Robinson, their general manager, I would still be having nightmares about that playoff game against the Bengals and the way they lost it, because I don't think it is going to – I think it's going to take some time for the Tennessee Titans to get the 1 seed in the AFC, and I just think they blew a massive opportunity. Like, the Titans had a dream season last year, not only winning the AFC South, but getting the number 1 seed in the AFC. Their defense had 9 sacks in that game, and they still could not win because Ryan Tannehill literally gave the game away. And Tannehill, he's made some nice improvements compared to his Miami days in Tennessee, but at the same time, like, that playoff game is going to sting for a while, and I don't think the Titans in the Ryan Tannehill era are ever going to be able to get back to that. The 1 seed in the AFC, home field advantage in the AFC to get to the Super Bowl, goes through Nashville, And it's been a great run for the Titans, right? Mike Vrabel, I think, is a great coach, a guy you could win with. John Robinson, a really good GM. We'll see how they look this year without A.J. Brown. Thankfully, Derrick Henry is going to be back on the field. But I just wonder if Ryan Tannehill, who actually had a really good regular season last year, is ever going to be able to do that again. Part of this list for me was projecting into the future and seeing, what guys are going to be able to keep this up for a long amount of time. And with Ryan Tannehill, I just don't see him being the guy in Tennessee. And maybe the Titans feel similar after they drafted Malik Willis. I don't necessarily believe in him. I think they're going to have to find another guy to be that answer after Tannehill. But yeah, once again, that playoff loss was just brutal. And I would still be having nightmares about it if I was Vrabel. Moving on, number 19 on my list, another guy that Will mentioned. I will go with Trey Lance. And I think one of the more under the radar storylines heading into this NFL offseason is what is going on with San Francisco. How is Trey Lance looking in training camp? Because a lot of the conversation I've heard around the 49ers and their quarterback situation is, is Trey Lance going to be able to be like Jimmy G and get this team back to the NFC Championship game? Is he going to be able, as a rookie, to step in right away? And is he going to be able to give them what Jimmy G did last year? And the question I have to counter that is, what happens if Trey Lance is even better than Jimmy Garoppolo? Just how far can this 49ers team go? And last year, it was a magical run. They looked dead in that Week 18 game against the Rams, and Deebo Samuel just took over the game. Jimmy G made some big throws, Kittle in there as well, and they found a way to win that game. They go into Lambeau Field and win, blocking a punt, scoring a touchdown in that playoff game. And I think over the last few years, even though they've won a lot of playoff games, the one thing the 49ers have been missing is that consistent play at quarterback. Jimmy G was good. He was solid, but he would have some bad games. And Trey Lance, after seeing some limited action last year, this is his time. I think in that Shanahan system, he could be in for that big leap. And he's in a very favorable situation in San Francisco. I think they could have a big year in a pretty weak NFC. I will have Trey Lance at number 19. At number 18, this was an interesting one because I think this is another guy similar to Ryan Tannehill that had a decent regular season last year, but the ending was so sour, it really made us not as high, and his team felt the same way, and that's Carson Wentz. Of course, his season ended very poorly, losing the last two games of the season to the Raiders and to the Jaguars, ultimately costing the Indianapolis Colts a playoff spot. And I think it was really unfortunate how this Colts team and their season ended last year, because if they could have just made the playoffs, I think they would have been a threat. And Carson Wentz, he had a decent regular season, but ultimately Indianapolis, they couldn't take his antics anymore. They decide to move on. And I'm very curious to see what the situation in Washington looks like, because I know it could be mixing fire and oil when you look at Carson Wentz, a guy that has not been able to find a home, a guy that hasn't really been able to be that good teammate and stick as a franchise quarterback. And he's going to Washington, a place where there's a lot of commotion right now. They really disappointed last year, but I think the belief is they have some talent. They just signed Terry McLaurin to a big contract, have Antonio Gibson. Chase Young is going to be healthy to anchor a hopefully really good defense. They really disappointed last year. And it's really the last ride for Carson Wentz if he ever wants to be a consistent franchise starting quarterback in the NFL. I know it's a long time ago, but there was a point in his career where I thought Carson Wentz had the ability to be a really good quarterback in this league. And obviously, the way the last couple of years have gone, it's been really frustrating for him. Even though he put up okay numbers, it's a big prove-it year for him in Washington. And I do think with the weapons around him, he has a chance to be good in not too hard of a division either. The NFC as a conference is down. Washington has the talent to be a playoff team, and they have a coach that's made the playoffs before. I don't think that's a crazy scenario. So it's really time for Carson Wentz to step up. It's the last go around for him in his career. It's, Washington still gave up 2 second-round picks for him, so they must believe in him a little bit. So I will have Carson Wentz at number 18. At number 17, this is another guy that Will mentioned, Mac Jones. And I do think that of all of the rookie quarterbacks last year, Mac Jones did have the best season. Once again, I give the Patriots a lot of credit for letting go of Cam Newton and committing to Mac Jones right away. And for the most part, he had a good season. There were a few lumps, especially towards the back end, throwing the pick 6 against Miami the last week of the season. The playoff game was not pretty, but I do think as time goes on, he's going to improve. He's going to be much more familiar with the offense. My worry for him is One, the weapons around him. The Patriots spent so much money on these weapons a few years ago, and none of them have really panned out, like Hunter Henry, Nelson Aguilar. These guys are all right players, but there's no real difference maker there. And Matt Patricia at offensive coordinator. He hasn't coached offensive football in 15 years. I'm going to be shorting the Patriots this season because of that. I don't know how you replace a legend like Josh McDaniels, a guy who is one of the best offensive coordinators in NFL history, for Matt Patricia, a guy that utterly failed as a head coach in Detroit and hasn't coached offense in a really long time, and his defense wasn't even that good. Like, I know he has the pencil in his ear, but the Patriots defense really improved when they got rid of him and brought Brian Flores in. So I'm not a Matt Patricia guy. He's a big reason why I'm concerned about Mac Jones and his development, quite frankly. Like, if Mac Jones had some more talent, if he had a better offensive coach, like, I might have him a little bit higher on this list, but I will have him at 17. And then at number 16, a guy that Will didn't mention, but I'm going to be curious to see where he winds up on his list, because even though he hasn't been great the last few years, I think this guy has found a home, and I think he could be in for a very big season, and that's Matt Ryan, the new quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. I'll have him at number 16 on my list, and I think Matt Ryan in Indianapolis could have a similar impact like Matthew Stafford did with going from Detroit to LA, because I think that when you look at the Colts, since Andrew Luck's retired, they have been a quarterback away. This is a team with a lot of talent, a solid head coach in Frank Reich. And Matt Ryan, similar to Stafford, he was just in Atlanta for so long, and he had some good moments. He won an MVP. He got that team to a Super Bowl. He got the massive contract. But after a while, when you're at the same place for so long, things just get stale. And I think Matt Ryan going to a new place like Indy, playing in a new conference, in a new division with a whole new set of teammates where he's going to have to learn their skill sets and what they do well, I think this is going to be refreshing for him. I think he's going to have a bounce back year. The division is very winnable for Indianapolis with their talent. Tennessee is a worse team now than they were last year. I think Matt Ryan is going to do very well in Indianapolis, and I put him over Carson Wentz. I think he's going to be an upgrade at quarterback. So to recap, 20 through 16, Ryan Tannehill at 20, Trey Lance at 19, Carson Wentz at 18, Mac Jones at 17, and Matty Ice at 16. Zay, I'll throw the mic over to you. Anything stand out from Will or I's list at 20 through 16?
I actually wanted to ask y'all a question. I think y'all both have fantastic lists going from this point on. I want to ask you, out of the list y'all both constructed, who has the most pressure to succeed this season?
Yeah, I would say Carson Wentz from mine. Once again, like, it's put up or shut up time for Carson Wentz. And once again, Washington is so interesting to me because we know the history of this organization and all the controversy and crazy stuff that comes with Dan Snyder as your owner. But I think the talent on this team is really good, especially with a healthy Chase Young. I think he's a difference maker, pass rushing on the defensive side of the football. And McLaurin's a big time player that has had all this success with 8 different starting quarterbacks. He was still able to earn that big contract. I give him a lot of credit for that. And once again, like, I think there's talent around this Washington team. And if Carson Wentz doesn't make this work, he could be in trouble.
That's an excellent question, Zay. I like that. I actually agree on Zach's list. I don't have Carson Wentz in this because he already was way for early on mine, but I agree. Carson Wentz on Zach's list makes the most sense for me because he's going to be out of a job. If it doesn't work with the Washington Commanders, he's going to be commanding things from the house. He's not going to be on no roster because now you're talking about 4 teams. He already bounced around like a hot potato. Yeah, he definitely has a lot of pressure. On my list, I'm going to say Ryan Tannehill on my list because they drafted Malik Willis. Okay, that's the first signal that Ryan Tannehill, you got to step your game up. They didn't do that because, they wanted to give Ryan Tannehill help, clearly, because you can't throw to a backup quarterback. They didn't draft the weapon. They didn't get another wide receiver outside of Traylon Burks to make up for A.J. Brown or O-lineman or anything offensively that can help Ryan Tannehill today. They drafted somebody that can replace him tomorrow. And if he doesn't perform this year, barring what we saw with that 3-interception game that he had, and he doesn't do nothing this year, Ryan Tannehill could be gone. And now unleash the era of Malik Willis, a guy who is a project, but that project may get turned in a little earlier than expected. So I like Ryan Tannehill for that. But also, Winston is not too far off. because Winston clearly, the Buccaneers stint, even though it wasn't bad, he still had to prove himself. Last year got cut short because of the ACL injury. Now this year, coming back off that ACL injury, there's a lot of pressure with that. First off, not everybody's Joe Burrow where they could come back and lead his team to a Super Bowl after that. Most quarterbacks generally struggle after ACL injury, so he's dealing with that. And also, if he doesn't look good, he may not have a job. He almost didn't have a job this year as a starter. Remember, it took the Saints a long time to take him. They were trying to replace him.
I'll throw one more thing. Sean Payton's not there anymore. They now have a defensive-oriented head coach in Dennis Allen. And to be honest, I'm kind of down on the Saints right now. The more I looked at their offseason, I was a little confused by it. They were going all in, trading a bunch of draft picks to move up and go get Chris Olave, making a lot of these big signings. And it's not like Drew Brees and Sean Payton is back. I had Jameis Winston at 22 on my list, a little lower than you did. And not going to lie, I don't really know what to expect from him coming off an ACL injury and Dennis Allen. I understand the NFC South isn't great, and with the Saints and their talent on the defensive end, they should be able to win some games, but Kamara's going to be suspended, as you said. Michael Thomas is MIA, nowhere ever to be found, and the Saints acted like a team that's going all in to win a Super Bowl. I didn't really understand it, not going to lie.
So there's a lot of pressure on Jameis. Like I said, he almost didn't get picked up. They wanted Deshaun Watson. If they got Deshaun Watson, then Winston more than likely would have been a backup somewhere. Now he got the starting gig because the Saints couldn't get nobody. That's the only reason why he got it. So now he got to keep it. And that's why this year is a lot of pressure for Jameis Winston this year.
So last question, I think. And I think it's more regarding Trey Lance. I know we all knew that he was talented when he came into the league. We all talked about his arm strength. But the biggest issue is him being able to read the field and his accuracy. Is this a year for him where he needs to show, I guess, the world or even the team that he's capable of starting for the San Fran team? Or does he still have a couple years away because of how stout that roster is in San Fran?
He got to come out now. The reason why I say so is because you had a guy already in Jimmy Garoppolo, that led you to a Super Bowl and an NFC Championship game. When you make a move like that to draft a quarterback that high, knowing you had a guy already in your room, clear injuries, we know that's the reason why, you better make sure that he's a guy that can take you there. So even if most instances you give a rookie a couple years, even though it was second year, but rookie as a starter, you give them a couple years, that pressure, bro, from the media, fans, yo, my man, you got rid of Jimmy Garoppolo, for this guy. He better be the real deal. He better be made of that stuff. So, yeah, I think it's a very important year for my guy, Trey Lance.
Also, I don't think this is discussed enough either. The 49ers gave up 3 first-round picks to draft him. That is huge. There are very few teams invested in one player more than that. The 49ers giving up 3 first-round picks. They told us, look, we don't believe in Jimmy Garoppolo. So, yeah, if Trey Lance doesn't have a great season, there is some pressure on him just based on the 49ers expectations. That team is expecting to at least get back to the NFC Championship game. And I think in a lot of other circumstances, if you just stick a random quarterback that has never played or he has played some games, but doesn't have that much big time NFL experience, we're going to have our doubts about that team possibly getting back to the NFC Championship game. But I think the belief in San Francisco and Kyle Shanahan and the talent on that team and his ability to scheme for his playmakers. And he's just won a lot of football games, and he's a really good coach that has set up a great culture there in San Francisco. I think Will and I are on the same page. We're expecting a big season from Trey Lance based on not only his physical attributes and everything that he's done, but based on the situation he's in. And the NFC West, it's a very tough division. San Francisco should be a playoff team, but there are no guarantees. So we're showing our confidence and our faith in him and Kyle Shanahan.
And we saw what Mac Jones did. He showed flashes. We already seen the flashes from Mac, and he got his team to the playoffs. I could argue if he made that deep ball in that wild card game that got intercepted by Hyde. I mean, literally coming from one side of the field to the other, that was a momentum changer. That game could be totally different. Now imagine Mac Jones on the 49ers. We saw what he did, and won it with New England, who don't got that much weapons. Imagine Mac Jones in this offense if they drafted Mac Jones instead of Trey Lance. I mean, my gosh. So, you acted like you was the smartest man in the room, Mr. Kyle Shanahan, 28-3. You took Trey Lance over Mac Jones. you better hope that that's really the guy.
Well, wasn't the belief that Kyle wanted to draft Mac Jones and John Lynch kind of talked him out of it because the public perception was like, how can you take Mac Jones number 3 overall? Like that, that's what I remember. I feel like people were a little surprised that Mac Jones was in the conversation, but Kyle wanted him.
Well, John Lynch gonna live up to his name, all right, because them fans gonna come out, bro. If this guy's not the guy, oh yeah, it's gonna be crazy.
All right, one last question I'll throw out there, like just for fun. Who would you rather have for the rest of their career? Mac Jones or Trey Lance? Because I would say Trey Lance, based a lot on the situation that he's in.
Personally, I'm going to go Mac Jones. Accuracy matters to me. I think once you're able to just at least get your guy, pinpoint accuracy is what's most important. I know Trey Lance has the intangibles. He has everything else from the speed to the arm strength, but we don't know if this guy will be able to read a field a couple years down the line, and that's the biggest issue. And his accuracy is a big question as well, because what if he's unable to make those throws accurately, then those defenses will pick him off left and right. So I think right now, for me, I'm going to have to go accuracy over arm strength.
I agree with Zay. I'm going Mac Jones. There's something about this kid, man. When he got drafted and he just walked up like a veteran, like a militant dude, like just right to the stage. He always been ready. Like, he's a guy that's always been ready, and I like him. I like his game. He may not have the mobility, and normally I would choose a guy that's mobile because that's where the league is going, but he can transcend that. He could be the one exception to the rule that, pocket passes can still win in today's NFL. I'm taking Mac.
Yeah, and I'm a Mac Jones believer too. My worry, crazy enough, is the situation he's in with not a lot of talent and Matt Patricia and Joe Judge over there. I'm going from Josh McDaniels to that. Like, that is just crazy. That's a nightmare for me, and I hope Mac is going to be able to recover from it. And big season for all these guys ahead. And
it's funny because when we did the comparison I remember that video daily, when we talked about which team should the 49ers draft, or excuse me, which quarterback should the 49ers draft, Mac Jones or Trey Lance. I was on the Trey Lance bandwagon then, but Mac Jones came a long way for me, bro. He definitely did. I'm a fan of him, and I'm a fan of Trey Lance too, but Mac Jones is my guy. I love mac and cheese. That's my favorite meal anyway, one of my favorites. So give me the Mac. Ladies and gentlemen, I know y'all not getting tired of watching In the Huddle over and over again, so like and subscribe to the channel and receive these new notifications of new uploaded content that will be coming your way. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your day. I'm out. Peace.